Some apologies never come, and waiting for them can steal years. There's a certain kind of hurt that doesn't just fade with time. Not because you're dramatic, because it was real. And deep down, you're not only waiting for the word sorry, you're waiting for the moment someone finally admits, I did that. I hurt you. You weren't crazy. It mattered. Sometimes it's an old friend who vanished and never explained. Sometimes it's a parent who never learned how to own what they did. Sometimes it's a marriage where you carried more than your share, and they still act like you're the problem. So you replay it. You imagine the conversation you wish would happen. You think, if they just said it, if they just acknowledged it, maybe my body could finally unclench.
And maybe you've kept something for years. An old letter, a card, a photo. Something that carries the whole story in your hands. You look at it once in a while like you're checking the door. Still closed. Still no apology. Tonight's letter is about the apology you'll probably never get and the peace you can still have. Because here's the truth older age teaches you. Closure isn't always given. Sometimes it's chosen. I stopped waiting for them to understand. That doesn't mean what happened was okay. It means I finally realized something. If my peace depends on their apology, then they still have power over my life. And I don't have endless years to keep living in that old room. So tonight I want to talk about how you close doors from the inside.
How you make peace without permission. How you stop postponing your life while you wait for someone else to become the person who can finally say the right words. In the next part, I want to start with the honest question. Why do we crave an apology so much in the first place? And what are we really hoping it will give us? Most people think an apology is just manners. 2 words, a polite little bandage. But when you've been hurt deeply, an apology is not about politeness. It's about reality. Because when someone harms you, especially someone close, your mind doesn't only feel pain. It feels confusion. It asks, did that really happen? Was it really that bad? Why would someone who says they love me do that? And if the other person denies it, minimizes it, or acts like you're too sensitive, the confusion can last longer than the event. That's why an apology can feel like oxygen, not because you need them to grovel, because you want the truth named. I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. A real apology says, I see what I did. I see what it cost you. I'm not going to rewrite history to protect myself. That's what people are craving. Acknowledgement, recognition. The moment your pain stops being questioned. I wanted my pain acknowledged. This is especially true with family wounds, because with family, the story is long. The hurt isn't one moment, it's years of moments. And often, the person who caused the hurt is someone who will never say, I was wrong. Not because you're not worth it, because some people don't have that skill. They can't sit with shame. They can't admit fault. They can't tolerate being the villain in someone else's story. So they dodge it. They joke it off. They change the subject. They blame you. They act like it never happened. And that leaves you holding something heavy. The truth with no witness. So you keep waiting. You keep hoping for the sentence that will finally make the story make sense. Sometimes you even think, if they apologize, then it means I mattered. If they apologize, then it means I was loved, just badly. If they apologize, then it means I wasn't foolish for caring. That's why it's so hard to stop wanting it, because the apology becomes symbolic. It becomes a kind of proof. But here's the quiet truth. Your pain is real even if they never admit it. Your experience counts even if they never name it. And in the next part, I want to talk about the problem with waiting. Because waiting for an apology can quietly give the other person the keys to your peace.
It can keep you stuck in a room you should have left years ago. Waiting for an apology feels reasonable. It feels like you're asking for something basic. But there's a hidden cost. When your peace depends on their apology, they control your healing. I gave them the keys to my peace. That's what waiting does. It ties your nervous system to someone else's character development. And some people don't develop. Not because you didn't explain well enough, because they don't have the capacity. Some people can't apologize because pride is too loud. Some can't because shame is too heavy, and denial is how they survive. Some can't because they truly don't see other people's pain the way you do. And if you spend years waiting for that person to suddenly become self-aware, you can lose years. Not just time on the calendar, time in your mind. Because you keep living in that room. You replay the conversation. You rehearse the perfect sentence. You wonder what you could have said differently. You imagine them finally admitting it. And every time you do, your body returns to the moment. Your shoulders tighten, your stomach sinks, your jaw clenches. It's like you're still there. I was still living in that room. That's the real tragedy. Not that the apology didn't come, but that the waiting kept you trapped in a past that wasn't changing. And it can turn your life into a quiet courtroom. You become the prosecutor, the defense, and the jury every night. You try to prove to yourself that you weren't wrong to feel hurt. But here's the thing. You don't need their apology to validate your truth. You don't need their agreement to make your experience real. If the apology never comes, it doesn't mean you imagined the pain. It means you're dealing with someone who can't or won't own it. And you can't build your peace on that. Because time gets more precious as you get older. You start realizing you don't have endless years to spend on old arguments in your head. Not when you could be living. Not when you could be resting. Not when you could be investing in people who are kind now. So the question becomes, if they never apologize, will you still choose peace? In the next part, I want to show you what that looks like, closing doors from the inside. Not pretending it didn't happen, not rewriting the story, simply deciding that you will not keep paying for it every day. Closing the door from the inside doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop waiting for someone else to complete your healing. It's a quiet decision you make with yourself, and it starts with something very honest. You name what happened. Not to them, if they're the kind of person who will deny it, to yourself. You say, that happened. It hurt. It changed me. No minimizing. No, maybe I was too sensitive. No making excuses for them just to keep the story less painful. You tell the truth plainly. Because the truth is what gives you footing. Then comes the second step. You decide what it means about them and what it does not mean about you. Because when people don't apologize, we often turn it inward. We think, maybe I didn't matter. Maybe I deserved it. Maybe love always feels like this. But their refusal to apologize is not a verdict on your worth. It's a window into their limits, their pride, their fear, their lack of skill. You can acknowledge that without hating them. And then comes the hardest step. You release the fantasy version of them. The version that finally understands. The version that finally says, I see it now. That fantasy can keep you tethered for decades, because as long as you believe that version might show up, you keep the door cracked, and a cracked door lets cold air in. So you close it, gently but fully. Sometimes that looks like writing an unsent letter. You say everything you wish you could say. You don't worry about sounding nice. You don't edit for their feelings. You tell the truth.
Then you do something symbolic. You fold it and put it away, or you tear it up, or you burn it safely, not as a show, as a marker, a moment that says, I don't need their words to validate my truth. I'm choosing peace now. My peace is not up for negotiation. You may still remember what happened. You may still feel a sting sometimes. But you stop reopening the case every day. You stop paying rent in a place you don't live anymore. And in the next part, I want to talk about forgiveness. Because a lot of people here make peace and think it means pretending it didn't matter or letting someone back in. That's not what this is. Forgiveness can exist with boundaries. Peace can exist without closeness. When people talk about forgiveness, it can sound like pressure, like someone's telling you to be bigger, to be spiritual, to let everything slide. But that's not what I mean. Forgiveness is not pretending it didn't matter. Forgiveness is not rewriting history to make someone look better. Forgiveness is not letting someone back into your life so they can do it again. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. You can forgive and still keep distance. You can forgive and still say, I don't trust you. You can forgive and still protect your peace. Sometimes forgiveness is simply this: I'm done carrying this every day. Not because they earned it, because your life is too precious to keep living with that weight. I can release the weight without reopening the door. And that's what older wisdom looks like. It's not loud. It doesn't require announcements. It's you deciding you will not keep paying interest on an old debt. There are people who will never admit what they did. If you keep waiting for their apology, you stay in their orbit. But when you forgive in this quiet, practical way, you step out of it. You stop giving them a daily role in your mind. That's the gift. And if you do see them at a family event, in town, somewhere unexpected, you don't have to perform forgiveness. You don't have to force a smile. You don't have to confront them. You can just be calm. Polite if you want to be. Distant if you need to be. Because peace can exist without closeness. That's important for anyone who's been hurt by family. Because family doesn't always go away. Sometimes you can't avoid them completely. So you learn a new posture. You don't reopen the wound. You don't try to win the argument. You don't go back into the old role. You stay steady. You keep your boundary. And you keep your life. Forgiveness at its best is you choosing freedom. Not for them, for you. In the next part, I want to talk about the peace you can still have. What life feels like when you stop waiting for that apology and you start investing your time into what's real now. Because one day you realize, time is too precious to spend on old arguments. The first thing you notice when you stop waiting for an apology is how much space opens up. At first it can feel strange, almost too quiet. Because for years, your mind had a habit. It would return to that moment like a tooth you keep touching with your tongue. It would replay the conversation. It would try to solve the unsolved. But then, something shifts. You go an afternoon without thinking about it, then a full day. And one night, you realize you're falling asleep without the old courtroom in your head. That's when you understand, I got my life back. Not because the past changed, because you stopped living inside it. Time is too precious to spend on old arguments, especially later in life.
Because the years start feeling smaller and the moments start feeling more valuable. You begin to ask, do I want to spend this evening replaying someone else's failure? Or do I want to spend it living what's still good? You start investing in people who are safe now, people who can apologize, people who can repair, people who don't make you doubt your reality. You stop chasing recognition from the person who refused to give it. And you turn toward the places where love is actually available. You also become gentler with yourself. Because when you stop waiting for them to admit it, you stop waiting for your own permission. You stop saying, I'll be okay once they finally, and you start saying, I'm choosing okay now. That doesn't mean you never feel the ache. Sometimes it still shows up. A song, a holiday, a familiar phrase. But the ache becomes a visitor, not a landlord. It comes through, and it leaves. Because you've closed the door from the inside. In the closing, I want to leave you with a simple permission. You may never get the apology, but you can still have peace. You can still have dignity. You can still have a good life without waiting for someone else to become the person you needed. You may never get the apology. You may never hear the sentence you deserved to hear. And that is a real loss. But you don't have to lose your life on top of it. Don't postpone your peace waiting for their sentence. Closure isn't always given. Sometimes it's chosen. You can close the door from the inside with dignity. Not by pretending it didn't hurt, but by refusing to keep paying for it every day. You can say quietly, it happened. It hurt. And I'm choosing peace now. If this letter met you at the right time, you're welcome here. And if you'd like, tell me in the comments what's something you've stopped waiting for so you could finally move forward. Take what helps, leave the rest.